Welcome to another great edition of Beyond the Hype with Black Enterprise. I'm Alfred Daymond Jr., Senior Vice President and Executive Editor at Black Enterprise. And as always, we have a great topic and a great guest, and we're really raring to get going in the new year of 2024. Listen, we are still celebrating the 50th anniversary of hip hop. And while the celebration has been going on for more than a year, it's because there's so many aspects of hip hop to celebrate. It touches every industry, every walk of life, every culture, every country. And who I have here with us today is one of the people who was a co-founder of one of the brands that started it all in the world of fashion. Yes, you don't need me to kind of tease you because you see the hats that we're rocking today. FUBU, the iconic, original, hip-hop, groundbreaking fashion brand that now, all these years later, has expressed itself across so many different platforms. Please welcome to the show, and we're going to talk about that too, Dr. Keith C. Perrin Jr., the CEO of FUBU Radio. Keith, welcome to the show, man.
How you doing, man? Thanks for having me, Alfred. Appreciate you.
Listen, we cross paths all the time. We've known each other for years. Full disclosure, guys, I'm in the Speakers Bureau for one of the other founders of FUBU, Daymond John Speakers Bureau. So in that way, his company represents me as a speaker. But I've known all four of the founders. But just talk a little bit about the beginning. I mean, it's now legend. It's iconic. But what Daymond, you, Carl, and J. Alexander Martin, Carl Brown started when you were young men, maybe some would say kids, back in the day when FUBU became the phenomenon that we know it to be today.
Oh man, back then we were just young guys trying to figure it out. When we got out of high school, Jay actually went to service, the Navy, so he was a vet. And the other three of us were just trying to figure it out. I myself was a property manager for one of the largest housing companies out there. So that's what I was doing. And I know Daymond was working at Red Lobster and Carl, I think he was working in a factory or something, a warehouse. But, Daymond came up with this idea of making these tie top hats. Me personally, I'm a cap guy. I never liked the hat. I never wore the hat, but it was something that was popular at the time and people were really clamoring to just get their hands on it. So we started with that hat, and that hat it was a trendy thing, so it kind of went in and went out, came in and went out. And then he came up with this idea of starting a clothing company. So we were like, okay, during our free time, everybody try to contribute as much as they can. But being that we wasn't 100% invested into into this brand, it wasn't taking off the way it needed to take off. We started and stopped 3 or 4 or 5 times or whatever it was. And then we tried to figure out, okay, what do we need? And what we were missing was capital. And that was hard to come by, that was really hard to come by. Daymond got rejected, I think, by 27, 28 banks or something like that, trying to get a loan. But we kept pushing on and even though we stopped a couple of times, we kept pushing on. And then we finally went to the magic show. Someone told us about the magic show. I don't know if it's Carl Kanai or something. I think it might have been Carl Kanai told us we needed to be at the magic show. We get there, he hooks us up, gets us in. Me personally, when I say us, my team, because I was still doing the property management thing. So I couldn't just take off a week and shoot to Vegas. So I sent my cousin with them. But they were able to go down there and secure $300,000 worth of orders. Now, if you know anything about orders, $300,000 sounds really good. Really good. When they came back, we were jumping up and down saying we were rich and, we on our way and, and then we had to figure out, how do we get the money to produce $300,000 worth of orders? So that was just another, bump in the road for us. And then his mother, she said, hey, listen, if you're going to do this, you need to put an ad in the paper for $1 million worth of orders and, you need financing. So we looked at her. He's like, well, we only got 300,000. What you need to do is put an ad in the paper for $1 million worth of orders. So we're like, okay, cool, Mom, we're gonna do that. And we did it, and we had some of the most shadiest characters call us. And we're four guys from the hood. Like, we're not used to someone calling us, offering us 10, $20 million over the phone that haven't seen us,
Right.
that haven't met us. Some of them sounded like mobsters, like Tony Two Fingers or something. But it was just, these guys were just, and later on, because we got their names, but later on we came to find out that those were like the sharks in the business that was taking everybody's company. So
Mm.
we were lucky not to get involved with that.
Right.
Um, but we pretty much dressed, a lot of people. I know Buster was coming through. We dressed him for a video, and he had on one of our now iconic first sample scuba jackets that we ever did. And I think it was only like two made, but he got one and he wore it in the video. And Nas, I remember Nas coming through, Fredro Starr. It was actually Fredro Starr who wore it, because when we got the call from Samsung, actually, before I get into that,
Mhm.
when we got the call from Samsung, they were like, "Oh, you guys need to come up and meet with us." So we were a little too hood to all go up there. So Damon said, "You know what? I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna deal with it." So we were like, "All right, cool. You're the CEO. You go bring it home." So he actually went and had the meeting. Nothing really came out of it. I think it was maybe about 4 to 6 months later. We just said, "You know what? We were gonna keep doing what we're doing, and if it take off, it take off." So 6 months later, uh, Fredro came by the house and said he was doing New York Undercover and he needed some clothes. He gave him some clothes. He wore one of our T-shirts, one of our first design T-shirts actually, and he got killed in the shirt. And usually we don't want that type of image, but at that time, all we were doing was videos and things like that. So we have never been on major TV, as in a TV show or a movie, anything. We were just videos at that time. So that was our first big hit. Um, and they called back. They saw that episode and they called back and they said, "Hey, you guys are still out there doing it. Let's set up another meeting." And come to find out, Samsung was just opening up their first textile division. So we happened to be the first company to come through with that. So, and then, God blessed us so much that we we did a bunch of black expos, and we were selling out at every black expo. And doing that, it helped us kind of plant these seeds within the communities that love the product. We just didn't know that at the time. So when we got the deal, our terms were, I think, 5 million in 3 years. They're gonna give us 5 million, and then 5 million if we don't make 5 million in 3 years, they're either gonna take our name or our company. And we were like, okay, well, it's time to get to work, guys. And we went to work, and those seeds started to grow because when we launched our first season, I think we made over $5 million our first season. So that's in like 4 months. And we were like, oh wow. And then the second season, we made over $20 million. So they were kind of like, okay, these guys have a grip. They have a grip on something here. Like, just open the floodgates and let them go. And, people always say, how did you guys get so big? We had financing from a huge company like Samsung that we were able to just create so much product and keep it rolling. So that's kind of like the beginning of the story, on how we.
No, no. See, I mean, and I love hearing the story because I've heard it so many different times. Both when
Hmm.
I was at that time I was the editor of Black Enterprise magazine. Of course, so much has happened since then. Um, but it's a really great business case story for others, has been over the years and still for others
Hmm.
who have a great idea, have to decide if they're going to put some skin in the game, but it's still managing. I got a job I got to manage. A lot of times you hear people got a startup and, oh, I wrote the idea down on a napkin and I met with this dude and he gave me $20 million and we're off.
Yeah,
And we
nah, it
know
wasn't
that ain't
that.
happen.
It
So
wasn't that.
it's really great. And also, speaking of FUBU being an integral part of the fabric of what we now know of as hip hop culture. Back then, people thought it wasn't really going to last. But you mentioned some iconic things, like, for example, New York Undercover, which is like the first real kind of hip hop, you know,
Cop
TV
show.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
mean that you would like that really had the sensibilities. They were the kinds of cops we never saw before, both the men and the women,
Hmm.
and their family, and it was so in a way, just that story as you told it, and like you said, the story's a lot longer, it could be a lot more detail. Um, really
Hmm.
does integrate into what you guys discovered along the way. It wasn't really just about hats and jackets and shirts. It was about culture, and
Hmm.
really all great business is about culture. If you can tap that culture, and you guys tapped it on the way up. Tell
Hmm.
me, from your vantage point as again one of the icons in your case in fashion, but it could be in music, it could be a film. I just saw the great Spike Lee exhibit at our Brooklyn Museum, man. It blew my mind. Um, what was your experience as you saw the 50th anniversary of hip hop being celebrated over the past year, 18 months? Um, what was your emotional response to the experience over the course of the year? And not just the music, but actually the style, the fashion, all of that. It's hard to
Hmm.
capture really effectively all
Yeah,
at once.
it's hard to capture all of it, but
Yeah.
I was proud because I'm at that age where I grew up on hip hop. I remember the first hip hop groups that came out. I was listening to them on the radio. When we had to go down to the AM dial, we couldn't even get it on FM. We had to get it on AM, and it only came on at midnight on certain days and things like that. So I was proud, and then it was great to see, because you hear a lot about the older MCs not getting a just due. And I think they tried their best to incorporate a lot of people. I know some people were still not included and were a little upset, but they tried their best to include everyone that they could to make it as big as they could. But I was proud to see like some of the older acts out there performing and still doing their thing, and um, this thing is 50 years old. You have so many artists that you're not going to be able to capture everybody,
And we've
and get
lost some
everybody on
individuals over
board.
those 50 years too.
Yeah, and then we lost a lot of people too, and even they were honored at some of these events. But I was proud to see it because it was an art form that wasn't supposed to survive. When we were younger, they were like, "Oh, hip hop is not gonna, it's not gonna last. They don't want to play it here. They don't want to play it here, or they're taking it off here. Or it's getting too vulgar, the explicit lyrics, and they running over CDs with what you calling them, street things, the
Yeah,
flatteners, they flat up um
right.
street
Street,
rollers and
street
stuff." And it
papers,
was
street
just
rollers.
like, yeah, and it was just like, okay, you guys don't understand us. It's a culture that we come from that you don't understand, and just because you don't understand it, that doesn't mean you have to abolish it. Try to understand it. Yeah, if you come in our hood, people talk like that. They call girls this, and they call guys. They this is what it is. But when people far removed from the culture don't understand it, they're gonna come at it like that. But we were able to push through, and I was telling somebody the other day, I said, we got a lot of the artists, but we need to get to the fashion of the 70s, the 80s, the night, like, they did the artists, but just the fashion part of it and how certain artists were able to create their own style and change the game and the trends and things of that nature. I think that wasn't focused on enough. And dealing with thousands of MCs, you don't have time for that. But I, I, I
No, but
said I said to
I,
somebody,
I want to say this because I asked the question because I didn't want to lead the witness. So I heard, here's my feeling, and I'm hoping that again it's really not, it shouldn't be over because we're in 2024. To me,
yeah, I was
you
just
got to
getting
do,
ready to get to that.
yeah,
Yep.
no, you got to do fashion. You got to
Mm-hmm.
do dance. I didn't feel like they did enough on hip hop's influence. Now regular dance we think of as ordinary dance. That was hip hop dance. Like the moves that everybody
Mm-hmm.
does originated in hip hop. Nobody danced like that before. Now you go
Nobody.
to
Nope.
Dancing with the Stars and they're doing hip hop. You talk about
Yeah.
art, so you talk about movies. There's just so many aspects, and you're right. There was a heavier focus on MCs, far lesser degree
And the
DJs.
music.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and so my
It
hope
was
is
it was
that
a money thing.
yeah,
It was a
absolutely,
money thing.
absolutely,
It was hey, we're gonna bring out all these artists, get put some money in their pocket, but also put some more in our pockets.
yeah,
I think Eleanor Romero did a great job over at FIT, spotlighting the artists and the fashion and things of that nature. She's been big in our development over the years because she covered us when we were like in the '90s. She was covering us, and
hmm
so we had a long-standing relationship. So she did a pretty good job. But like you said, it shouldn't be over. It should be, because what somebody who was it? I think it was KRS One, and they was talking about the
yeah.
Grammys. It was like,
Like,
oh, all of a sudden you want us on the Grammys in the 50th year, but what happened to the 47th, 48th? We weren't allowed until the 50th. So does it die in the 50th year? You know what I'm saying? Does they just keep pushing on and not talk about it anymore? Like when we get to 51, does that matter, or they're gonna just be like, So I would love to see it keep going. I
well,
definitely
you,
would.
you just hit the nail on the head why I wanted us to have this conversation anyway. Like you said, what happens after year 50? What happens?
Hmm.
Is it radio silence, if you will, until 75? And then it's like, oh, well, it's about time to do that again. When it shouldn't be that way because it's such a big part of
No, it
everything that we
shouldn't.
do. I also want to go back to obviously Black Enterprise is a business media company, and one of the
Hmm.
things I was excited about during my tenure as editor in chief of Black Enterprise, well, on the come up even before I became editor in chief, was
Hmm.
and again the kind of battle that you guys were fighting in a way, you guys meaning those who are carrying the culture at the beginning on the outside, getting hip
Hmm.
hop to be accepted. That was a battle that my generation of editors at Black Enterprise was fighting on the inside. We're trying to convince our late founder, Earl Graves Sr., no, this is the business of this has to be paid attention to. And so it was, we finally did get, for example, Carl Kanai was written about, and, you know, and now we accept as hip hop and business as synonymous. But once
Hmm.
again, FUBU, others, FUBU, Cross Colors maybe, Carl and I did, but FUBU more than any other brand
Hmm.
helped to illustrate the business evolution of and the opportunities for Black entrepreneurs who normally would have been locked out of any other kind of traditional business. So once again, you guys created basically a whole industry that allowed you and your peers to get into business in a way that, let's say traditional media companies like Black Enterprise hadn't thought about Black business people wearing,
Hmm.
caps and bubble jackets and and kicks. So talk about
Yeah.
you kind of touched on it when you talked about the early beginnings, but the evolution of you and Jay Alexander, I think, has Fubu TV network now. Of course, we know about Daymond as the people shark on Shark Tank. You head of Fubu Radio, and that you guys became business people and then evolved. And even now, when you talk about how you pursue your lives in a way that you didn't look like what even Black business people were supposed to look like back in the 80s and the
Yeah,
90s.
no, we were definitely rough around the edges when we got in there. Even our partners, they were saying like, "Okay, guys, you don't need to ship, pack, and box everything up, and you can let things go. We have a team to do that." And we were like, "What you mean? Like, this is what we got to do." So it went from that to, okay, what can you guys do now that you're not doing all of that? And then it was going into sales. And I never sold anything before in my life, but I watched the guys around me that they had around us and talked to them, picked their brain, and figured out um, what it would take to be a successful salesman. And what I figured out is just don't lie. Like, don't over deliver and under promise. So I would be straight up with the guys. I would be like, listen, this is hot right here. This is lukewarm, but I need you to take some of this lukewarm too. You don't have to take a lot of it, but I'm telling you, it's lukewarm. Give me 6, 12 pieces, so that's how we used to do it. And I would always sell them the things that, or direct them to the things that were really, really selling really well, and then kind of get them to come on the back end and scoop 6 to 12 pieces of each of these other items that wasn't selling as well. Then we went from that to, okay, we have enough salesmen. You guys need to go on the road. You need to do marketing. You need to do branding. You need to do all of this stuff that we had no idea that this is what it was called. Like, okay, we was thinking we're going to go promote the brand. Like, that's what we were talking. Oh, we're going to go promote the brand. But it was actually, branding and marketing and all that stuff. And we learned how to do that. And I know, back then you had to be there. So it wasn't any of, this social media stuff going on, and oh, you can put up a post and everybody will see it. No, you had to pay these magazines $10,000 to $15,000 a page. If you got 4 pages, you got a nice little discount, maybe at $12,000 a page. But you really had to put the money behind the marketing and the advertising and all that stuff. Then on top of that, we watched people and how they did parties and events, and we were like, oh, it'd be dope if we started doing parties to promote the brand, and like, we just go places and just open up the bar. We'll spend $20,000-$30,000 to open up the bar, but hey, a couple of pages in the magazine is 30,000. So maybe that'll work. And then we started doing that, and that wound up being one of the biggest marketing ideas that we ever came up with, because that really touched the people. That was touching the people. So when they would go back to their respective cities, wherever we were at, Cancun, Miami, Super Bowls, All Stars, or wherever it was, they would go back to their respective cities and now purchase the brand because they knew who we were. And if they didn't know who we were prior, they knew who we were when they got back home. But as the years grew, and you get to those years where the brand is not that hot, then you got to sit down and strategize. And I think one of the biggest things that we did was having people on our team who really were like fast forward thinkers. And one guy who was a great help to us, a guy named Burnt Ullman, he pitched to us that we need to be overseas. We need to take the brand overseas, and that he can get these licensees overseas to open up stores. And we were like, really? We don't even have a store in the US. How could you, because it's a learning process. All this stuff we're learning, like, it was on the fly. So he came in, we opened up these stores overseas. And Alfred, man, when I tell you just the places that, we opened: Milan, Turkey, in Japan, Saudi Arabia. I didn't even know it was a hip hop community in Saudi Arabia until someone pulled my coattail and was like, hey, there's a hip hop community everywhere. And then I really thought about it, and I was like, yeah, that would make sense. It's a rock community, it's a R&B community, it's a jazz community all over the world. So why not a hip hop community? So just doing that kind of opened us up into being international and learning what. Now we're paying attention to the people overseas and what they're wearing and how they're wearing it, and just learning the business as we go along. And actually, when it kind of fizzled out around 2000, I think it was like around 2005, 2004, then that was the biggest challenge for us, because now we were like, okay, they don't want this anymore. What do we do? All right, let's do a remix. Let's do food. What was it called? I can't think of it now. It's on the tip of my tongue. But basically, we took the brand and we kind of remixed it. So we did all new logos, and that started to work for a while. And then we went back to the lab because that was like the sample phase. Then we went back to the lab and really created a whole season or two of product. And I remember me and Jay and Carl going back to Damon and like, yo, this is what we came up with. And he was like, yeah, because we were thinking we were going to make this product just to give it away to people that were doing major events. So if someone was going to the Grammys, hey, yo, we got an outfit for you. It doesn't scream FUBU over it, but this outfit is for you. And Damien looked at it, he was like, oh man, we ain't giving this away. We got to make this. And we wound up turning the that line into a line called Crown Holder, where we had the velvet pockets and expensive. The jeans were like $250. But it was really nice goods, and we wound up taking that up until 20 million. But then 2008 came around, and then it was like, ah, everybody was trying to put us in bankruptcy, and we was like, listen, if you put us in bankruptcy, you're not getting this other line, and then that's another thing we did. We created Crown Holder, but we also worked with and invested in other lines that was coming through the pipeline, like Coogee, um, Kappa, uh, Married to the Mob we worked with, Heather Rett we worked with. So we had a couple other people that we were working with and doing things for, and using our people to kind of get their things in play.
And
Um,
your
so I
expertise.
mean
I
that,
mean, they didn't have to learn from scratch the way you guys
yeah,
did. Yeah.
yeah, and then that whole time period there was just a real learning experience. So when I mean, for me, I could just speak for myself. I didn't really catch on. I caught on, but I didn't really get the importance of how the business worked. Cause we were partying, having fun and everything. But around 2008, I was like, oh, okay, this is, we gotta figure this out now. This is serious. Like, what do we do now? Like, so everybody basically, started drifting off doing their own thing and trying to figure out other avenues. And yeah, I know Jay started working on Force Bias TV. I opened up a modeling agency, which I wasn't successful because I think when Twitter came out, um, the models felt like they didn't have to go through me, and why should they pay me 20% when they could just go straight to the company on Twitter? So I did that for maybe about a year or so, and then I kind of just went through a little BS in my life, in my personal life, where I was going through a depression and everything, and mentally breaking down, um, and almost contemplating suicide. So I was going through all of that, trying to keep up to my old image and who I used to be instead of trying to figure out who I need to become. And I was kind of fighting myself really. So it was, oh, I can't, if I'm not doing FUBU, I know this job pays a good amount of money, but it don't pay enough as FUBU. And what are people going to say? And, so you kind of going like this, and I wasn't making any progress, and it was just getting frustrating year after year. So, excuse me, when I went through that, I was just like, what do I do now? And a good friend of mine, we knew each other for about 6 years at that time. He called me one day and was like, hey, you ever think about doing a radio station? And we've done FUBU Records in the past, which I was, like the second in command of that. But that was a whole different animal. That was dealing with artists, dealing with companies, record companies, and all of that. This was just putting great music on air. So I kept telling him for about 6 months, man, we ain't got no place. Where we gonna get the where we gonna have the base at? We gonna have it in New York, North Carolina? Like, what are we gonna do? Like, and how much money? And we need money for equipment and this, and how we gonna get people to pay the people? And he was just like, slow down, slow down. He said, you don't have to start, big like that. We could just start small. And I think we procrastinated for about 6 to 9 months. And then one day we were just like, let's just start and see where it goes. And we started it and started pushing it out. And,
So
almost 8 years later, well, next week, 8 years later, it'd be, it's still
in
here.
a way, you kind of came full circle because at the very beginning, y'all just started and see where it went. Like you know what I'm saying? It was like at the
Mm-hmm.
very beginning, you didn't know where it was going to, but you got started and you got to where
Mm-hmm.
you. So I told you a lot of times it's about going back to the beginning. It's not about starting on the penthouse. It's like go back and
Mm-hmm.
build the foundation and go back up again. But if we've been living in the penthouse, we think the next thing has to be the penthouse too.
Another
But there ain't
penthouse.
never
Yeah.
been a building built that started with the
It's not.
penthouse. It always starts at.
Mm-hmm.
So you like you said, you got it started, and now 8 years later, you have something. But it's almost kind of going back to what worked and what's tried and true. Different stage of life, different world, but still, you got one thing don't change. You don't build buildings from the penthouse. You still got to start from the foundation.
You
So
still got
yeah,
to start from the foundation. Yep.
no doubt, no
But
doubt.
you know,
So
it was really because I'm really observant, so I paid attention a lot to a lot of things and how things were done and what was done and what wasn't done. And so when I started my company, I said, okay, I learned a lot from dealing with what we were dealing with. I want to come to this with a clean slate. I don't want to do anything that wasn't right for my people. And I got a great group of people behind me who believe in me, and part of them believing in me is being successful with FUBU, the collection. So they see me do it over there. So the confidence that they have in me and the confidence that I exude when I'm doing different things. I say, hey, listen, I'm working on partnering with iHeart, and at the time they were like iHeart because FUBU Radio was just a little baby. It wasn't really
mhm,
anything crazy like that. So they were like almost looking past past FUBU Radio, like iHeart. So then they would even say, hey, I got a station we rocking on iHeart. I said, no, you're on FUBU Radio, powered by iHeart. Like, don't leave us out.
right.
Um, but when I told them that we were going to do that, and they were like, okay, boss man, we'll see, that'd be a good thing. And then when he came down the pipeline, they were like, whoa, what he said came true. Then my partner Demetrius Brown, he wound up going to Odyssey and saying the same thing to them, and then we had a partnership with Odyssey. So now we have these two huge companies that we can broadcast and have a bigger audience on. It just allowed us to grow, and even the work that we put in years, even overseas and opening up stores and different things overseas. We have a huge overseas presence, like places uh like Kazakhstan, I think it is. Um like I was talking to a young lady who lives over there, and she was telling us that we're huge over there. And I'm like, really? And she's like, you're like Gucci over there. And I'm like, wow. But, it's just, I just feel like we've been blessed. I think when people used to get at us early on in our career about our prices being too high, which they weren't, they just didn't want our prices to be what they were. And you're talking $80 for a hoodie sometimes, and we put bells and whistles on it. We want $99, but it's putting in the quality in the product that has helped us, sustain this 31-year career. Because I'm looking at people with shirts on that are 25, 6 years old. And I'm like,
Oh
man, that
yeah,
shirt look brand new. And the first thing they say, man, that quality,
no,
that quality, man.
no. I give this praise all the time over the years. The stuff I still got from back in the day is two brands: Karl Kani and FUBU. Like the jeans, I had some boots, man. I cried when I had to throw those away. Like I just couldn't let them go because it was good. Like, so you're right, but you had to educate the consumer because it's like, it costs this much because this is what we did to make it worth that much.
hmm
And you guys were definitely groundbreakers in terms of even now hip hop's appreciation of fashion, um, it could be rooted in those days of understanding what makes a piece of clothing worth whatever it's worth. So yeah,
hmm
I give you all kinds of props for that. Listen, while I got you, and while we're on this subject of what you're doing with FUBU Radio, I have the FUBU Radio app on my phone, and of course, you talked about your relationship with our heart. But how can our audience who may not have FUBU Radio get FUBU Radio? What should they be doing? What should they know?
Well, all you need to do is download the app.
Yeah.
We like for you to download the app on our platform, because we put a lot of work into the app, and we would like to see you, utilize our app. But you can
That's
also
fabulous.
get it on. You could get it on uh iHeart, Odyssey, TuneIn, on all the major streaming platforms. You can tell Alexa to play Fubu Radio. You can tell Google to play Fubu Radio. Like it's connected all the way through. So,
Okay.
but we really like to get people to download the app because for us, it kind of gives us a read on who's tapping in. Even though we get the numbers from those other companies as well, but it's a little generic when it comes to that. But you'd be amazed, man. We were sitting there looking at the numbers the other day, and a lot of the listenership comes from desk computers.
Mm. See, I've only listened to it
I
on my
didn't know
phone.
that.
I never listened to it on the
No,
computer.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You just go to FubuRadio.com and listen to it live right there on your computer while you're working. But a
Oh,
lot of people are tapping in from just straight from the computer. So yeah, you can listen to it everywhere, and we have some great shows. We
yeah. Talk to
have
me about
a
the program. Yeah, tell my audience about the philosophy of FUBU Radio and what you have on there and why.
well, the philosophy behind creating the station was my frustration with um a certain playlist that played all the time, and it just didn't. You had to wait until a special day to hear older songs, and you turn from one station to the next station and you hear the same song. I wound up buying satellite radio in my car because I couldn't take it, and then satellite radio became that. So I was
Yeah.
just like, wow, it's just like everybody's playing the same 20 songs. Um, so when we started it, we were like, we want to create something that's obviously dope music wise. When we first started, we stayed kind of back, like we stayed like 5 years back. So this is 2023. We didn't play anything older than 2018. And we also played a lot of the 90s. Um, but in doing so, I felt like how are we connecting with the audience or the youngsters now who are listening to music? Like, where do they tap in? Are they going to be playing old songs? Today's kids, they when the song comes out, they own it for 6 months and then they on to the next one. So you ain't talking about 5 years behind. So we wound up creating a show called The Power Connect where new artists can be featured. You get interviews. There's no payola going on. It's just, if my DJ loves it or likes it, he's gonna play it. So we've been doing that, and that's been really big for us, getting new music out there. I have Shay McCrae who does the morning show. Um, she's really energetic. Her and my man Q, they do the morning show. Do a great job at the morning show. Really entertainment wise, a lot of funny jokes. He's a comedian. She's somewhat of a comedian too. So they play well off each other. Then you have Chris Child. She's like my journalist. She has more of a journalistic side where she comes with stats and numbers and facts, and and she's reading off everything, and she really takes her time and really put that time into her work. Then you have my show. My show comes on mid night from 2 to 6. And my show is called Keeyzo's Corner, where I didn't want it to be anything about gossip, anything about slandering, or just wanted just it to be about giving flowers and basically having a conversation with my peers or people I know, or you know about what's going on with them and how could we work together to build them up and stuff like that. I don't concentrate on celebrities only. I concentrate on people who are doing business. If you're working on a business, I just had A couple of ladies on there. One had an eyewear company, and the other had skin. What do you call that? Skincare line.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just up and coming and getting their feet in the ground. And I thought that what they were doing was worth talking about. So I interview a lot of different people. And it's not just about the celebrity because, even when you're talking to celebrities, and for us, we've had a good relationship with celebrities, so they don't feel like we're gonna come at them like that. So I'm
Right,
able to
right.
talk to different people and bring them on. Then you got the night show with B Pays who does an incredible job. And then I found the young kid, Dylan Jam. He came to us when I think he was like 14.
Wow.
And if you hear him play, listen out for Dylan Jam when you go on FUBU Radio. You hear him play music, it's like he's mid 30s or 40s. Like the stuff
Mm.
that he's putting together, he wasn't even born yet. I think he's 16, 17 now. Um, but he does a dope show. Then I got a couple of friends, LS1 who comes on the weekends, Cat K Fox from Miami, she does the weekends. My boy Sterling Knight, he does, mixes on the weekends. So, and then I have um a political show with my
Didn't
guy
know about
Brandon
that either.
McGee.
I gotta listen. I gotta listen to
Yeah, he
more.
come.
I'm not getting
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
yet.
he comes on Sunday at 9 o'clock in the morning. So, and he talks. He's a representative from Connecticut who comes on and talks. And he talks a little bit about church and politics. So, but we got a nice little roundup, of a great team of people. And I know I'm probably leaving some people out. They're gonna kill me, um, but yeah, so it's definitely coming together this year. Last year, no, this year we teamed up with this tech company called U42. Um, so we put all our most of our content on their platform. Um, so they've been a great partner this year, and we've been working well together with them. And looking forward to I think 2024 is going to be the year because I never really had everything clicking at one time.
Mm.
So if I had the personalities clicking, I didn't have the executive team together. When I got the executive team together, COVID hit. So my personalities were all over the place. So,
Right.
then I had a couple of people who didn't believe um in what we were doing, and it wasn't moving fast enough for them, so they jumped ship. And you know and I'm
Happens.
I'm cool with it. It happens. Um, but this next year, man, I think we're really gonna kind of knock it out the park. We got everything clicking at one time, so you'll see it. As we go into the new year, I'll be posting a bunch of stuff.
Well, I mean, Beyond the Hype is a. I tell people, people now we've been around doing this show for a little over 3 years, so it's at that stage now that people are trying to get on the show. In the beginning, it was like I was begging people to do it because it was a very new thing. Also launched during the
Hmm.
pandemic because we couldn't do anything else. Um,
Right.
and to people, it's about an interesting topic, then the interesting person. So it's
Hmm.
not celebrities have been on this show, but it wasn't about their celebrity. It was about an interesting topic that they were passionate about, and they said, "Oh, I want to come talk to you about that. Let's do it," because it was about the topic.
Hmm.
And I happen to think really good content is about that because the truth is, celebrity is all around us. It's not as back in the day. It was hard to get to see a celebrity. Now it's all around you. It doesn't mean it
Hmm.
has no value, but it's all around you.
Right.
So,
Hmm.
so yeah. Before I run out of time with you, and I thank you for being so generous with your time, as I am with all my guests. The reason I was looking forward to having this conversation is because, again, I've known you from afar for a long time, and more in more recent years, gotten to know you more personally. And the other thing that I always try to the common thread I try to find with people I have on this show is people who have experienced some things that can talk about their growth. I mean, you talk that I've been
Hmm.
through mental health issues. I still have a weekly, check-in with my therapist. I've been through health issues, and it's not about the issues. It's about being around long enough to navigate life and those issues, um, in order to not only evolve and grow yourself, but also be able to bring value to others. And that's how I
Hmm.
see you. So speaking of that, and your continued growth as a human being, not just as a founder of a company or CEO of a radio business, talk to me about becoming Dr. Keith Perrin Jr. Like you're still
Ah,
doing things and achieving goals and not resting on your laurels. You're growing as a human being. Talk to me about that whole thing. How did you become Dr. Keith
you,
C. Perrin Jr.?
you know, you know what? Um, Being humble goes a long way,
Mm,
and people have always seen me as humble, down to earth, funny. They love being around me.
true.
I was never fake. Um, and a good friend of mine who used to invite us down and to St. Louis and do parties and things with him and all that, just reached out to me one day and was like, "Hey, um, are you interested in having an honorary doctorate in the
Mm,
Presidential Lifetime Award?" And I'm like, "What?" And this is how God works. I'm sitting there talking to I call her my PR, but she does more than PR. Um, and she was telling me, she said, "Hey, these are some of the things I want to do for you. And, hey, we can even actually go to Harvard I mean, Howard, because I went to Howard and I'll get you a doctorate degree. Do you have a doctorate degree?" And I was like, "No, I would love that." Like, I was like, that's one of the awards I don't have. I got presidential awards. I got plaques. I got citations. I got proclamations. I got so many things, Essence Award, all that stuff. But I always was envious of people who got that, and I was like, wow, I wonder one day I'm gonna get that. So she talked to me about it, and 2 weeks later, my guy hits me on Facebook and asks me that
wow.
question, and I'm like, yeah. So I got my honorary doctorate in Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award from Harvard Christian University, um, and and I'm so mad that it happened on the day I was flying out to LA for 3 days, and I was like, "Oh, you gotta be kidding me!" When I'm telling you, everybody was there. I heard New Edition got it. Cole, Carl Payne, Cole from Martin, young lady named Benicia, I know from Houston. Uh, who else? I think Christopher Williams. I got one too. Um, and Tank, but Shaq, like it was, and everybody was there except me. Do you know how mad I was, bro? I was like, oh man, but and I got the award for just being a great entrepreneur, doing good business over my 31-year career so far, and and then also just giving back to the community, um, being one of those guys who dedicated his time and blood, sweat, and tears to the community, and just being recognized by my peers for it. And I'm actually going to walk across the stage in March, so I'm looking forward to that. So in LA, so but it's something that I'm super proud of. I can't wait. I haven't even got the paperwork yet. I don't know if they're gonna hold it until until March. But I thought they were gonna send it to me so I could put it in my office. But I guess I gotta wait. So I'm not mad. I'll just wait. But
You got good things to look
it's
forward to, man.
it. Yeah, man. Yeah. So it's definitely gonna be displayed in the right situation somewhere in the house or at work. I'll have maybe one at work, one at home. I don't know yet, but yeah, I'm super hyped on that one, man. That was big. That was really big. And
So
now I
listen,
am Dr. Keith Perrin.
Dr. Keith Perrin Jr. I'm a junior, so I
Yes.
I I, I tack that junior on. I'm like, don't leave it off.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I usually do. Oh no, officially I'm Keith C. Perrin Jr. everywhere. So
yeah, yeah, I know. So in the time we got left, your whole story, and again, thank you so much for being on the show. You dropped so
Hmm.
many lessons through your experiences, but you are at that stage of your career where there are people who are inspired by you, especially younger people who not only know the FUBU legacy, but again know about you, your community involvement, and the things you're doing with FUBU Radio. If you were talking to a Keith Perrin who's now at the beginning, and you always tell me I don't have any regrets, but there are lessons that I wish I had known back in the day. What kind of lessons would you leave with the Beyond the Hype audience that you think that would serve them going forward, especially if they were your age when you guys first started with Google?
I would definitely tell them to save their money. Uh, I got told that a lot when I came in the game. But like I was saying, when you're a young kid and I've worked to get to that point where I can have money to buy what I wanted. Um, so in the beginning, I was a little reckless, but I really didn't like. I didn't need the Maybach. I didn't need a $500,000 car. I had $100,000 car, but I didn't need a $500,000 car, and I was super satisfied with that. Um, do your homework. Um, I think for us, when we were young, we didn't know, we were learning on the fly. We weren't sitting down reading and really going through what we needed to do to be successful. And, um, we were using Jay as a buffer, like things that we didn't know, being that he went to FIT, we would ask him questions to ask his teacher. We probably could have read a book. You know what I'm saying? So, but it was just things like that. Like really, really do your homework. I run into a lot of people now who want the microwave uh,
Yeah,
success, and it really doesn't happen like that. And I'll give you a short story. Even with FUBU Radio, somebody told me one day, "Well, your brand is already successful. All you gotta do is put it out." And I said, "No, brother, it doesn't work like that." I
whoa,
said, "People know me for clothes. They don't know me for media. This is a whole different animal. So I have to work just as hard as I did the first time to launch FUBU as I do to launch FUBU Radio." And, people get on me now sometimes and say, "Oh, man, why you at work at 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning? You ain't got to go to work at 8:30 in the morning." I'm like, "Yes, I do. Because this way I can get off at 4:30 and I could go home. I don't
yeah,
have to, I don't have to, I work for myself, so there's no time limit that I have to stay. Now, if I have something to do, it's a different story, but I go in early and I leave early and I go home. But I put in my 8, 9 hours, respectfully. You know what I mean? So, and I have a job to do. So the longer I'm there, the more time I have to get done what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So, but things like that, like, work ethic. Nobody's going to teach you a work ethic. If you either have it or you don't. Either you want it or you don't. And I always wanted it because I always wanted to buy my mother a house and do all of these things because coming up without money, I didn't see that. Like I didn't live in a house until I was like 18, and that was a rent a house for a year, And
no,
then
no, man,
when
we had the same experiences. I tell people I didn't have my own room to myself for the first time until my last year of college. Like I didn't know what it was like to have my
hmm
own room because I was raised
yeah.
on my mother was on welfare and public assistance too. I'm the oldest of four kids that my mother raised by herself, and you don't realize, at least I didn't realize until I got out into the world. I was in college and I saw how and it's no diss on them, but I was
hmm
like, nah, I got to get stuff done. I don't, you know, nobody. I
Yeah,
do
you
my
got.
laundry. I get
Yeah,
stuff done. I get
you
stuff
gotta.
done, and that does carry over into work
hmm
because you never, like I said, I was like you. When I got money, I was ready because my thing was closed. I was like, I'm gonna be fly. I'm going,
You know where I get it from too. I get it
you know,
from when I was I was in a co-op program in Bayside High School, and they were like, "Oh, you're gonna get a good job. Everybody's gonna, you go to work 1 week, you go to school a week." So everybody had these high-paying jobs in my classroom, and I think Damon is one of the only ones too that didn't have. He was a messenger at the time.
Mm-hmm.
and I worked for this company, American Foundation for the Blind, and we
Mm-hmm.
were just like erasing cassettes and re-recording cassettes and putting them back in for the libraries and all that stuff. And they would pay me $3.35 an hour. So I would go back to school with 100. I still know my check, $123.46. That's how much I got paid a week. And I was like, so you mean to tell me all these people get all this money and I get 123? So when I finally lost that job, excuse me, when I finally lost that job, I wound up working for HUD, and I didn't take it serious. I did my work, but I was coming in there hat on backwards, t-shirt, sweatpants, one leg rolled up, coming into this government job, and I didn't really take it as serious professionally as I should. So when I got fired from there, I went into the private sector of NHP, working with NHP National Housing Partnership, and I vowed when I got that job, I said, I'm never going to get fired again. I was like, I'm never going to get fired again. I said, I'm going to go in there with this attitude that I'm going to go above and beyond. And when I got in there, I got 3 raises in 18 months.
Wow.
I went from rental assistant to office assistant to assistant manager. And then the next 6 months, I went to property manager. So by the time I was 18 years old, by the time I was 20 years old, I went in there just before I turned 18.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time I was 20, um, I was a property manager with my own building, $6.4 million budget, and that's kind of like where I got it from, and it just carried on from there to FUBU and doing whatever I needed to do at FUBU to make things happen. But no one's gonna teach you that. Like I said, either you have that or you don't. And what I see today, and a lot of people today, is they want the hookup, like
Yes.
Master P. I got the hookup. They want to come in and just because they know you, you're gonna take them to the promised land. And it's like, okay, one, do you have a business plan? Two, whose finances are you using? Do you have financing, or do you have anyone backing you? Three, what's your product? Four, where you want to sell it at? Like five, it's so many things that I run down the line to them, and 90% of the time they don't know what to answer. They have no idea what to answer. He's like, oh man, I'm gonna be like you guys. I'll give it to you. I'm sure you got people, and I'm like, bro, I've been doing this a long time. You're a startup, so you're talking to, and I'm not being cocky, but you're talking to a person who sold billions and billions of dollars worth of product. The people I know are up here. The people you need to know is down here.
That's right.
These people up here are not messing with you right now. You don't have enough money to mess with them. So it's
Like
not me
you're
taking you
not
to
gonna
the
you're not gonna
promised land.
start out in the NBA.
Yeah,
You're not. You ain't starting out. Play JV.
nah,
You know.
you're not doing that.
You're
So
not
what
doing
you
that
have
yet.
to do is stay in your lane. I can help you in your lane, but you have to have your stuff together. And a lot of people, I'm running into a lot of people that do have their stuff together, which I love, because when I see the drive in them, it just makes me want to help them even more.
Right.
And but there's a lot of people out there who just want to be a boss. I call it just want to be a boss. Oh, I have a company. I'm the CEO. I'm the boss. But you're the boss of what?
This is
You ain't
what.
selling nothing. Like you ain't got no employees, you ain't got no business, so you just the boss of what? Like but just do your homework, man. That's really important. And be persistent. You know, just be persistent because these things I already were. Most of them I already were. I was persistent when I started.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it just carried on into what I was doing with FUBU. And, I'm a great learner, so I listen. And that's another thing. Sometimes you just need to listen as opposed to talking. Um, I wish we would have worked for one thing I wish we would have did was kind of work for a clothing company that could have showed us the ropes before we spent so much money, on the fly, doing things on the fly. So, but for us, it was a learning curve. Obviously, we didn't kill ourselves with the spending, and we were good. So.
Well, but the advice you're giving is so powerful, and the two things that stick out. I do a lot of entrepreneurial mentorship. For example, I'm a
Hmm.
mentor for Pharrell Williams' Black Ambition program for 2 years, the last 2
Hmm.
years, but I also do mentoring on my own of a lot of entrepreneurs. And one of the things, like I listen to everybody, but it's who follows through that ends up with the mentorship. So if I say, listen, people want to call you. I got an idea. I said, no, don't call me with it. Send me an email. Give me a one-page outliner. Most
Hmm.
people will never send it because again, it goes
Yeah.
to I just want to tell you I don't really want to do anything. But the
Yeah.
other
I don't
thing,
want to do the work.
I don't do the work. As I'm just asking you for one. This is your idea. You can't take one. Just write down this idea. No, So if
Yeah.
I ask 20 people to do it, one person will actually put something together and send it to me. The other ones I don't hear from again. So I tell people,
Hmm.
in a way, I don't pick my mentees. They pick me. The ones that follow through get me. The ones that don't, because they just want to get on the phone and get a meeting or whatever. The other thing that
Yeah.
you said is very important. I tell entrepreneurs all the time. If you think you want to start a business, get a job in that business. It could be a part-time job, it could be a night job, but get inside that thing because often
Hmm.
some people get inside a business and find out they hate it because
Yeah.
they only saw what they
Yeah.
can see from the outside. You know.
You know how many people I know who have clothing lines that ain't went anywhere yet, and every time I see them, they talking about, "Yo, I'm coming out with a new shirt." I'm like, bro, give it up, bro. Like,
Right. Right.
you're not even doing the necessary things to keep it in people's faces. Like, you're not even, like I give people. This is like my number one thing I tell people. I said, listen, when you start out with the cheapest product. Cheapest product is usually a hat, t-shirt.
Mhm.
Don't come to me with you want to put some jeans because you get a sample of jeans that's going to cost you probably $750. This is a sample of a pair of jeans. $750? What do you mean? This is what I'm talking about. You don't even know that it costs that much. I said, but start off with the cheapest product first. I said, now what you do is you go buy yourself a pair of jeans or you go buy yourself a jacket or you get things made for yourself that's more expensive because it's for you. And then you take your product and you wear your product out. And people say, "Oh, this is a nice jacket. Oh, where you get these jeans from? Oh, I just made these, I'm putting them together, whatever story you can come up with. But get people's reactions to your product and see if it's even something that they're really interested in. But don't shoot for the stars, just make some t-shirts, get the name out there. Because just we used to have this thing we call one time. So wherever we was at in the group, somebody go one time, and everybody head is on a swivel because they know somebody got on food, but we just got to see it. Where? Oh, over there. So we be like, oh yeah, yeah. So we know exactly what shirt he had on, what season it came from, how many did we see. These are the things that we took, account of, and we noticed like our jersey was one of the biggest things that everybody bought. So we wound up selling like over 3 million football jerseys. I think it was like $75 or something a piece. So just a lot of that's a lot of money. But just be and then people got to be invested in what they're doing. You can't be sitting in on the corner in Brooklyn talking about you want to be it's fashion week and you want to be a designer, but you're not at what's going on and what's happening, and you're not even in the mix. You got to get in the mix. You got to be there. Like I said earlier, we were at these places, all four of us, and people saw us, and so they knew who we were, because we were there. Now, do a little advertising, put a couple of dollars, and you could do the same thing.
Mhm.
But you got to have a plan.
Listen, you've been so generous with your time and even more generous with your experiences and your expertise and your wisdom. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Dr. Perrin. Thank you for joining me. Finally got you on the show. Thank you for
Yeah,
joining me
thank you for having me, man.
on Beyond the Hype.
I was coming on. You said,
Yeah,
yo, Keith, I need you on. I was coming.
I so appreciate
I
that, brother.
appreciate you having me. All right.
Well, guys, you know how we do. Another great edition of Beyond the Hype. I'm Alfred Edmund Jr., SVP and Executive Editor at Black Enterprise. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time.